Today I'm here with Melissa Finger and Kim Jones. And Kim Jones is the guest, so we get to ask her questions about what she's doing. Welcome.
The person on the hot seat. That's who Kim is
just
today.
For a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Lukewarm seat.
Lukewarm. You never know with Melissa. She might.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's just start off. Just hear a little bit about the ministry that you've been doing for several years now. I think I got to interview you in the first year of it, or something, and so that was 2-3 years ago, probably, right?
It was here in this building. So a lot been going on since then.
Yeah, now we've added video, and so it's a little
Look
bit.
at you.
Look, now we get to see each other's faces. Oh,
It's so much better with video.
All right,
It really is so much more engaging.
Yes, you can see
congrats
people.
on that.
You can see people's facial expressions and really begin to trust them. So anyway, but let's just hear a little bit about your ministry.
My name's Kim Jones, as you said, and I've been helping people for probably over 20 years with what I call trauma-informed discipleship.
Cool.
This is the best term for what I do. Very trauma-informed from my own history of trauma.
Cool.
And receiving a lot of help and counseling for that. But also just received a lot of training over the years through, formal training, webinars, books. I'm reading all the time. People who know me know that. Got about 600 books at home, 200 less than I had a couple years ago. I've been trying to give them away and lighten that load a little bit. But more recently, I become a certified Christian life coach, a board-certified mental health coach. I got that through AACC. Those of you who may be familiar with Marcus Warner Life Model, which I know a lot of your listeners are, very familiar with their material. I was on staff at Colonial Presbyterian for about 8 years as director of Hope and Healing, and when I was there, I brought in Marcus, I think for maybe three times at least, for conferences, brought in Life Model, hosted their conferences for a couple times as well. So met a lot of people.
Yeah, cool.
I think that's maybe when you met Marcus, right?
Yeah.
And Stephanie, maybe?
Yep, I would.
So, I'm a little networker myself.
That's right.
2 networkers here. So always fun when people that I've somehow connected directly or indirectly maintain those relationships over time. That's a very
solid connection.
Cool.
Specifically, something personally about me also applies to my passion, is I have a history of same-sex attraction, did a lot of work over the years.
Yeah.
God's done just a really deep work of healing in that area.
Yeah.
So I'm very passionate about helping people specifically who struggle in that area of sexuality or gender.
Yeah.
Very passionate as well about helping parents.
Yeah.
Who have either children or adult children who self-identify with sexuality issues or gender issues. Actually, I have a support group that I'm doing right now with parents, all of whom who have adult children who self-identify gay. So it's very, I think, helpful to the parents, especially as Christians, to be with other Christian parents who have children struggling and identifying in those ways. Very affirming and validating.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting the word you use, self-identify. I'm sure that's the correct term, but you don't think about that. They're basically self-identifying as a boy or as a girl or as a whatever.
Right, and it's not up to me, right, to say if someone is quote unquote gay or quote unquote whatever. That's not for me to say. Yeah. And so I like to use that term all the time, self-identify. Yeah. Because they are self-identifying. That's a fact.
Okay.
So I think that's a very good general way to say that.
It's a great way to look at it. Yeah.
Well, it's empowering too, because it puts everybody's in their own bubble of where they are in their journey. So it lets people have their space in their journey without necessarily a judgment or I don't know, anything against that. Exactly. So it's a safe space.
It is. I like it. Thanks.
So you started a ministry. What's the name of the ministry?
The name of the ministry is Restoration Pathways.
And
I started that about 3 years ago. And, I help women, I help men, anxiety, depression, as well as, the issues that I just mentioned. And with a life coach, just goals, things like that. What are their life goals? Helping them set action items to meet those goals.
Oh, that's cool.
Kind of generic things like that, as well as the more kind of trauma type
So
of
you
issues.
kind of like specialize in the SSA realm, and then I mean, I'm just saying,
Absolutely,
like,
yeah. No, I
because
specialize
of
in it.
you know,
Yeah.
because of personal experience in life, and then you've added life coaching and all those other elements to it
Right.
too. You
Yep.
know,
And I
That's
have
kinda cool.
always been, I think because of my own journey and what
Yeah.
I've learned along the way, I
Yeah.
have always been very focused on the underlying issues, the underlying causation,
yeah,
which when you do that, you help people regardless of what the expression, that brokenness, how that is expressed.
yeah,
So things like shame, right? Distorted concepts of God. Just distorted ways that we think life, how does life work?
yeah, yeah,
Distorted ways of thinking, unforgiveness, not receiving God's forgiveness,
yeah,
dealing with those kinds of things. Really, and even like as Marcus Warner says, the spiritual warfare aspects, generational sin, all of that, that pretty much takes care of 70%
Yes.
of what people are kind of struggling with. So
or at least addresses a big key
a
part
big
of it.
key part of it, exactly.
So you had a kind of an analogy, because a lot of times people use the onion.
You remembered.
I remember this,
You
and
just
I actually thought this was really
gained
good.
a few points in my book there, remembering it and mentioning it. That's
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, it was a really good point you made, that most people think of, inner healing journey as like an onion. You just take peel one onion layer off at a time, but you had a different idea.
Yes, I hate the onion layer analogy because it just makes the healing process seem so clean.
Right.
And that's the first analogy I was exposed to. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to work on my dad issue, my bio dad
And then it
issues.
will be done.
Then it'll be done.
Because it'll be peeled.
And then I'm going to work on my mom
Wow,
issue.
wouldn't that be amazing?
Yes.
Wow.
And then my stepdad. And I gave 2 months to each of those.
Oh,
so I thought,
timeline
6
for your
months,
onion.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
6 years later, I realized
Right.
that did not happen. So yeah, I much prefer the picture of a plate of spaghetti noodles.
Yeah.
Right, because all those noodles are just mixed in, and you see the noodles, but they're mixed in, so you don't know how the noodles touch each other. Even when you're eating them, you like, okay, I'm gonna work on this, and some of the noodles just kind of fall back to your plate, and it's like, okay, I get those later. It's messy.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Healing is messy. It's not linear, as much as we all want it to be, and which is why we need God.
Yeah.
Which is why we really need to bring God into our journey to kind of show us, okay, let's work on this now. You're like, no, I want to work on this. No, let's work on this now.
Yeah.
And it really is a difference with what Kim's talking about, of how she goes into that trauma roots and the root beliefs, because one, that is what makes it messy, but two, that is what makes it work.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, people come in with anxiety and depression and just all of the things that we struggle with. And it's like, okay, how can we just fix it from the top? How can we just make the symptoms less? And unfortunately, it has all of those root causes. And so being able to, that's one reason why we at the Trauma Healing Center, we really push trauma informed, because people like Kim, who we refer to, they know how to do that, and it's like, sorry, it's going to be messy, but this is the best way for long-term results. And so it's a good, solid way to approach healing.
Yeah, that's really good. You had a story, if you wouldn't mind sharing it, about the way the Holy Spirit began to lead you out of where you were at, and if you could share that. Remember where the Lord was dancing with you or something like that? I remember that.
Oh, yeah, it's my favorite story.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind sharing that, I think that.
I love sharing that.
Would be a good conclusion that we can move into.
Great. So I was saved in 1987. I was 24 years old. And like I said, strongly same-sex attraction, and honestly very promiscuous with men at the same time. I was a mess. Anyway, I get saved in 87. Growing up, I had been very much a tomboy. Truly, I know if I would have honestly grown up during this culture, I am sure I would have had many people telling me that I was trans. I mean, I was very much a tomboy. So anyway, that's an important backstory to have for this story. So 1991, fast forward, I wake up at like 5 in the morning, didn't have a job. I had just moved to Overland Park from Houston. Didn't even have a job. 5 o'clock, just wake up. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah, exactly.
5 o'clock, why am I getting up? But I just felt like it was God.
Right.
Just felt like it was God. So I woke up, Colossians was on my heart, so I start reading Colossians.
Yeah.
Nothing's happening. Just reading, do. It's 5 o'clock, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm reading Colossians. I get to the one verse, chapter 2, 13 to 14, I believe, where it said, Jesus on the cross took everything that stood against me, everything that was opposed to him. He took that in himself on the cross.
Yeah.
And that is now, I'm separated from that.
Yeah.
As soon as I read that verse, literally as soon as I read it, I just doubled over sobbing. Just the power of being forgiven just overwhelmed me. Because remember, I came from tons of shame. So it just hit that shame. So I'm sobbing, doubled over. Then I had this just amazing, beautiful vision. This beautiful vision that Jesus gave me in that moment. And I'm in this beautiful ballroom. Yeah. And I'm dancing with Jesus. Yeah. And I had this beautiful ballroom gown on.
That's beautiful.
And just his tenderness in that moment. And this was maybe a 10, 15 second, right, kind of thing. It wasn't as long, but it was packed with this meaning that God just dropped in. You know, we hear God in words. He gives us pictures, but then sometimes it just drops in. There's just no other way to say it in that moment. And so what hit me in that moment was I wanted to be the lady in that vision. I wanted to have that femininity. And that's who my true self was. And that's who God created me to be. And all my masculinity and all my masculine ways were just a cover and a protection just from the wounds and the trauma. So that was a monumental milestone from which no one could ever tell me from that day forward, you know, you were born gay or any of those things. Important to note, that was a revelation that fueled my transformation. It wasn't the transformation itself. Right. I didn't go like, woo, I'm healed.
God
it was years later before.
I was just thinking, thinking it because we talk about the healing journey, and you know, there's some math to healing, but like, we've talked about it. You know, we need to have an experience with God to get to the other side.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's kind of what the Lord did with you, is He gave you an experience, and then birthed desire in you.
Absolutely.
And one of the amazing things about God in doing that, and I think this is also really important, is He knows what experience we need to enter into that journey of transformation, because one person's experience doesn't always translate to another person's experience. Like, and especially something as core as identity. Like, God knows what identity picture He wants to give every person, whether they're struggling with identity or not. We are all becoming someone that God designed us to be. And so to be able to engage with Him, and one of the things I love about Kim's story is she wasn't looking for it. God was like, okay, I think that's when He speaks the best, is when we're not like, please talk now. And so then He's able to just give us whatever that picture is that we need in that moment. So you're right. It's amazing.
You're right about that.
It's amazing.
And I was just going to say just kind of one more thing real quick about just kind of what I'm doing in ministry-wise. And that is, I connected with a lady, Twoana Clark-Sheppard, several years ago. Yeah. She's a licensed therapist in Kansas and Missouri. Beautiful African-American woman. And we just developed a great relationship. I work with her in her practice. And she has recently started, I have started this with her. It's called the Women of Azar Collective.
Oh, cool.
And it launches in January. But I really wanted to kind of mention that now because, I'm here. And but anyway, it's for women in leadership. And by leadership, almost every woman is in a leadership role of some kind, even if it's in the home.
Mom,
exactly. But providing a safe space for women to come together. Under Twoana's leadership as a licensed therapist. So we're going to have group coaching cohorts and retreats and other type things like that.
That's so cool.
Super excited to be doing that with her and launching that in January.
We'll put a link to that website in the show notes, so that way people can go look that up and
Perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent. I'll kind of segue into one of our calendar events, and I'm going to jump around because this will not be on the first page, but it's a good segue. We actually at the Trauma Healing Center, this may be one of our first events that we've actually announced on the podcast.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. In October, we're starting a 4-week class that'll be every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock called Treating Yourself Well.
Oh, cool.
And it really goes into kind of what we're talking about, because we can't figure out who we are, who God made us to be, or be stable until we first can treat ourselves well, till we can figure out how to listen to ourselves, find out what our needs are, and that sort of thing.
Wow.
So
cool.
I'm excited about that. I'll be leading it, and it will be virtual. It won't be in person.
Oh, cool.
It's really targeted towards the people that struggle with dissociation and history of childhood trauma, but it would be applicable to anyone. So I'm just encouraging people to sign up for that on our website. So
yeah, and if you want to learn more about disassociation, we had a podcast last time, and we talked.
Did.
Not in depth, but we at least went below the surface.
It was a solid overview.
Yes, it was. I watched that.
It was a solid
definitely
overview of it.
It was a solid overview.
Yeah.
All right, but we've got a lot of other activities coming up, October and November. It's funny, November kind of trails off in the calendar world, at least on the places I was looking. So I think that's coming into the holidays. People have not quite got their stuff ready for that yet. Building Bridges, we always want to mention them. They have their family tables. They'll have one on October 5th and November 21st. The first one's at Colonial Presbyterian, and the second one's at Life Mission Church. And that's just a great opportunity for pastors and church leaders to come together, to have a meal. There's no agenda. So it's really, you get to talk and build relationship with people, which is very hard to do kind of in our society that we live in. So buildingbridgeskc.org is the place to find out that information. And I think Sending Project has a few things coming up.
They do. I love Sending Project. They do a lot to help people connect around the city, or especially around just like-minded, like-hearted type of networks, as they call them. So there are just a couple I want to mention, but you can go to their site, Sending Project site as well, and find several other events they have going on in networks that they have. But October 2nd is their Women's Leadership Missional Network Luncheon, and that they have that monthly, I believe. And I can't remember how many they had last time. I was looking that up. I want to say like over 50. So they always have a good crowd of women. So it's a great place to meet other women. Especially just women in leadership a lot, and a lot of good networking that happens with that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And this month, September, is it Tribble or Tribal? Do you know? Tribble, that's what I thought, is going to be speaking. She's the executive director of the Stop Trafficking Project. A lot of people know her name from Restoration House, which is where she was previously. So that's coming up. October 10th is the Heal KC Network Lunch. That's a network near and dear to my heart because I was actually a part of getting that started, myself and Wyatt Bury, who was your guest a couple months ago.
Yep.
So
Wyatt Bury.
Wyatt Bury, not Barry, which is what I thought. So it's an informative podcast.
Bury.
So that's coming up October 10th. And as I was doing a little research for this podcast, I saw that Sherry Puckett, who Melissa just mentioned, is going to be there, as well as Melissa.
That's right.
Oh.
So their speaker on their panel.
So I am super excited that you're doing that. When I saw that, I'm like, oh my gosh, Melissa's doing that. That's great. And just the other one I want to specifically mention from Sending Project is they have what they call a Lunch and Learn, which is mental health in the church. So that's in October 28th. And I believe that's a fairly new initiative they have. It's the first time I've seen it. I tend to keep up with what they've got going on.
October 28th?
October 28th.
Okay, cool.
The Lunch and Learn.
Wow.
It's a big topic, mental health in the church. So
yes, it is.
I'm glad that it is a topic now, because it wasn't a topic 20 or 30 years ago.
And what they said kind of on their website is one of the goals of that, I think, is just reducing the stigma of the mental health needs within the church. So it's definitely a topic near and dear to my heart, and I know yours.
For
and
sure.
yours.
For sure.
Yes, absolutely.
In agreement. If Not for Grace Ministry, which is a ministry for women, men, and families who have been impacted by abortion. They have a couple events coming up. Their big reconciliation weekend, which is a great time for healing for families and whoever is able to attend. They have those at Heartland Retreat Center in Parkville, and that is coming up in November, actually, November 10th through the November 12th. And so that's a great opportunity for healing. And as we know from If Not for Grace, noticed by now, if you've been watching our podcast,
Yeah.
they like to do the fun things
Yes,
too.
they do.
They deal with the heavy topics, but they like to do the fun things as well. They had a comedian a few months ago that was there.
Yeah, very
And
fun.
this time, actually October 6th, so that's coming up pretty quick, they have a men's barbecue, and it'll be night with food, games, a bonfire, and just a time for the guys to get together. And I just think it's so important. I love how they balance joy with pain.
Yes,
like we
I know.
have both. So I just think they do a great job balancing it.
Where
So.
do you have any idea where the men's barbecue is at? I know it doesn't list it here.
No, it was not listed, so I'm not sure. But
You
I'm
just
sure
go
you could
to
find
their-
out
on their events page right here, which will be in the
in the notes. And if you just can't wait for the notes, just go to infg.org
There
and
you
click
go.
on their events. All right. Let's do Lawrence. We've got a Lawrence one stuck in here. This is a Greenhouse Church in Lawrence, and
Wow.
actually their pastor there, Jared Schultz, used to be my worship pastor.
Oh, cool.
And so, yeah, many years ago, it seems like now. But their church in Lawrence is just thriving and doing so good for the community. And they have a No Coast Youth Conference in October. So I'm like, how can I not post about this?
Yeah.
Because that's so
Great.
fun. It's for middle and high school and college students. And it will just be, it's 2 days and a time for them to get together, and knowing their group, it'll be
Wow.
fun and impactful.
That's so
And
cool.
so, yeah, I think it's definitely worth looking at if you've got a teenager or somebody who's a young adult. And their website is greenhouselawrence.com.
Cool.
And then I think, Kim, you've got another one over there.
Yeah, so Desert Stream / Living Waters Ministries, which by a lot of your listeners and watchers are familiar with.
Yes.
They have a weekend conference coming up the weekend of October 18th through the 20th called Incarnation and Integration. Let Your Kingdom Come. And what's actually happened with that conference recently is they've merged with another conference that was also taking place that weekend
Yeah.
called Jesus 2023.
Oh, wow.
So you've had Desert Stream's vision for sexual and relational wholeness, merging with the Jesus 2023 vision
Wow.
for more of the Holy Spirit, unity in the church, prayer, worship, evangelism. Jesus 2023 is like a charismatic kind of conference. So
Yeah.
you've got the blend of both of those coming together for that conference. So encourage people to look into that. They have many speakers and worship leaders, including Ralph Martin, Misty Edwards, who
Wow.
a lot of people are familiar with from IHOP, and Andrew Comiskey, of course.
Cool.
It'll be a good night. I love the collaboration in that, too. It's fun.
That's a pretty deep collaboration.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Andrew
Yes, it is.
Kaminsky, I believe, is going to St. Thomas More, which is a Catholic church. And then you
Yes.
have Misty Edwards, which has come from
Yes.
FCF. Something like this.
Yes,
Then you have
it
Desert
is.
Stream, which is pretty much across the board, church wide,
is.
very, very bringing it together. So,
That's awesome. So Hesed Discipleship Network, we talked about this event last time. They have a Building an Emotionally Healthy Community event coming up October 13th and 14th, and you can check out their website for more information on that. Our website, again, as well as the notes from today, will have all the details.
yes.
And then KC Singles Mom, I won't go through all of these. This is another organization that just does so much for the community. They always have things going on. If you are a single mom, I won't look at Nathan when I say that. This is a website you should definitely
Yeah.
bookmark in your whatever browser you use. I won't name one. And that way you can jump to it often. But they have a couple of their pursuit classes, navigating the Bible and dealing with the spirit of anger. That will be the first week in October and November. And then they've got a workshop coming up on October 14th, Victim to Victorious. And so just talking about all the struggles that there are when you are a single mom, and how do you overcome them to a place where you do feel victorious,
That's so
as
cool.
opposed to feeling like my life is beating me up.
Exactly.
Which is what it can feel like for sure. And then another workshop they have in November 10th, Healing from Heart Wounds, which is super important. And then I want to just take a minute and talk about their walk that they're doing as a fundraiser on November 4th. It will be in Lenexa at a local park, and I think that's a great time.
cool.
Again, balancing that education with also something social, the healing with something that is kind of fun too, to be able to get out there and do a walk for this valuable cause and
Yeah,
for the people that
that's
they
so cool,
help. So
yeah.
all of that information is on their website, thesinglemomkc.org.
They are doing quite a bit.
They do a lot. It's really fun. Anchor Her is another organization I want to talk a little bit about. Not a lot of details. I'll let you look on their website just for time's sake, but they are an organization that's targeted towards women who've been impacted by incarceration or addiction. And they have a recovery event, but a fun event coming up in October 28th. They're going to have live music, raffles, food trucks. It's just a nice community time, community resources. They'll have some speakers that will be there as well. So kind of a nice time for people to get together and get educated, get resourced if you need them, especially if you're coming out of a situation where you've been incarcerated or really have in the past or currently struggling with addiction, and be able to have some community support in everything that you're going through. So,
you know what I love, Melissa, is just several times how you've mentioned with these ministries how they're incorporating joy, right?
Yeah.
Which we know is actually a part of healing.
absolutely.
And so
Vital.
I love hearing that theme.
Yeah.
It's,
You don't hear it often. It's either the joy organizations or the pain organizations. So, but there's a couple of groups out there that are doing it right. I like it.
Yeah, and I know Amy Mitchell with Anchor Her, the Battle Cry for Recovery, which is on October 28th. We might actually set up a booth there, and for Faith Horizons, and so anyway. But she's got just a really diverse population that goes. I think this one's in Independence at City Center or City Church or something like that in Independence. So anyway.
More information is at anchorher.org. Gateway of Hope, we like to mention them about every time because they've got a lot of good support groups. But this time I want to just draw attention to their conference, their 2023 conference, Women After God's Own Heart, on October 27th through the 28th. And that'll be at the Sheffield Family Life Center in KCMO. And that's another good time for women to be able to come together. Kind of feel like women has been our theme today inadvertently, to come together and to minister to each other, receive ministry, and just grow and heal, which
That's
is so important.
cool. Yeah.
And I believe that's Linda Randall's conference, right?
Yep, it is.
It's a wonderful conference. I've been a couple times, so highly encourage people to go to that. Several just great speakers, great worship. They're actually doing, I think, a national live stream. Might even be international this year, so kind of taking it up a notch even.
Nice.
So excellent. Really encourage women
That's
to go
cool.
to that.
Yeah.
It sounds like a good event and a nice breakup in October. That's when things can kind of get
And a lot of laughs. She always has a comedian.
Good.
Serious fun,
God,
worship.
you gotta
It's
have
great.
comedians.
Nathan's like,
Okay,
I'm in.
okay.
Can I go?
So, no, all right, hold on.
There are men there. You can help with security.
You think about this. So, they always have these marriage conferences, and normally the person that's running the marriage conference is a comedian. It's because it's the best way to deliver hard topics.
Laugh through it.
You have to tell your husband to do something more than once.
Right.
Well, because he heard you, but he forgot.
He forgot.
Anyway, you got to keep it top of mind with him, Anyway, so that there's just comedians that are able to deliver these real truths.
Real truths, yes, in the real fashion.
Yeah, in the real fashion. Anyway, so
It's true. It's a good delivery method.
it really
impactful.
is. It's very helpful.
Yes, it is.
Lastly, Soul Healing in the City, which is a good organization. Kim and I have both done a lot with soul healing throughout the years, but they have an event coming up on October 21st. It'll just be a morning. Often they do Friday night and Saturday mornings, but this one will just be Saturday morning, so that's important to note for anyone who attends their events. 9 a.m. to noon at Colonial Presbyterian in Overland Park. And they'll be have a speaker that will be there. They always have worship, and then there's a time for people to come in just for individual prayer sessions. And it's always impactful what they do through their ministry. And then you can also connect with them for individual prayer sessions outside of
they're excellent.
the meetings that they do. I think quarterly is when they have them, it feels like. So Nancy Morgan's the person to connect to if you want to register for the event, and there's no charge.
Cool. Well, just thank you guys for coming today, and I really appreciate it. It's good to get to see you again, and then also nice to
been a while.
capture what you're doing on video so that we can share that on video too.
Absolutely.
And anyway, God bless.
Yeah, thank you.
You too.